They lived, or rather they were, suspended in the vibrant heart of the Perpetual Now. Etherio was not static, it was the eternal convergence of every instant that was, is, and could be. From this nodal point, an immense psychic eye within the cosmos's fabric, they observed, not just with sight, but with the totality of their temporal being, the vast and complex tapestry of space-time, the infinite network of events, possibilities, and destinies interwoven in a cosmic dance. What for other races would be monumental cities, for the Chrononauts was a node of collective consciousness, a single mind composed of billions of individual streams, merged into a silent, pulsating symphony. They did not resonate with the echoes of past eons. They were those echoes and the vibrant possibilities of the future, intertwined in an eternal dance of being. It was a psychic network where each individual self contributed to a universal understanding of time, a shared consciousness that encompassed the known history of the universe and beyond, and their structures. They were not buildings of stone, metal, or energy. They were temporal convergences, meeting points where multiple threads of causality nodded for an instant of purpose or contemplation. They were ephemeral architectures of light and shadow, of collapsed past and future moments, manifesting and dissipating at the whim of the chrononauts' vibrational consensus. They were not built with tools, but with the sheer gravity of collective intention, emitting a temporal murmur inaudible to three-dimensional senses, yet palpable to a chrononaut's being. A library could be the superposition of every moment of scientific discovery across countless galaxies, the simultaneous resonance of all questions and answers ever formulated, a council chamber, the convergence of every crucial decision ever made, where the potential outcomes of divergent futures manifested as dancing shadows. Communication among them transcended any audible or visual language. It was a direct resonance of experiences, an instantaneous and total transfer of moments lived or yet to be lived. It was like drinking the history of another being of time, feeling the glow of a distant sun through their eyes, the cold of intergalactic vacuum on their skin, the euphoria of a moment of creation, the weight of an existential choice. This transmission came wrapped not in words, but in the chromatic and thermal palette of pure emotion, tinged by the very essence of the moment, the golden warmth of primordial love, the icy chill of existential fear of oblivion, the blinding white flare of sudden understanding, the somber red of regret. A simple encounter could be a shared journey through the turbulent birth of a galaxy, the melancholic contemplation of a distant universe's end, or the silent sigh of a love lost in an ephemeral age, all experienced in a shared instant. This mode of being, this existence at the very heart of time, was not passive. The Chrononauts were the ethereal guardians of the very structure of causality, the cosmic balancers of the temporal flow. Their purpose was not to govern or direct, but to watch with a patience only eons can forge, and to balance the vast and often turbulent tides of time. They did not actively intervene in the events of the lower timelines, the three-dimensional realities with their passionate but ephemeral dramas, unless an anomaly threatened the fundamental structure of time itself, a Gordian knot in causality, a self-destructive paradox that could erase eras, a rupture in continuity that would tear the tapestry. Their fluid forms, these living sculptures of history and future, often mirrored the events, concepts, or even beings they most deeply resonated with in that now. A young chrononaut, a consciousness barely beginning to explore the currents, might manifest as the ephemeral glow of a newborn star, or the perfect trajectory of an interstellar projectile streaking through the void. A chrononaut who had witnessed the rise and fall of an entire galactic civilization might adopt the intricate architecture of its celestial cities, the complexity of its technologies, the pattern of its migrations, all encapsulated within their luminous changing form, a story told without words. And an ancient chrononaut, one who had existed across vast stretches of Etherio's subjective time, their consciousness saturated with countless eons of observation and experience, might manifest forms so complex they would defy the perception of any three-dimensional being. Mosaics of colliding universes, the complete cycle of a galaxy from primordial dust to central black hole, the very structure of a resolved paradox or a closed temporal loop, all vibrating simultaneously within their temporal essence. They were, in essence, walking histories, embodiments of the cosmos' most significant moments, living witnesses to all that time had been and promised to be. Etherio, in its conceptual perfection, seemed invulnerable. But even in a place built of time and thought, stability was not guaranteed. A dissonance began to grow, not on the outer edges of the nebula of memory, but from within, in Etherio's deepest currents. It was not an audible sound, but a flaw in the temporal symphony, a discordant screech in the perfect resonance. It was a sensation, an unnatural cold spreading, a subtle but insidious tear in the very fabric of causality. For the Chrononauts, accustomed to being the embodiment of time, it was as if a sickness was corroding their very forms. Cascades of light flickered erratically, swirls of stardust became chaotic, the forms of history and future within their bodies distorted into meaningless paradoxes or became blurred, indistinct. The resonance of experiences grew confused, mixing unconnected moments, a future before its apparent cause, a past without its traceable origin. It was the echo of oblivion, not the simple passage of time and decay, but an active erasure, a force that sought absence. One chrononaut in particular, known for their deep connection to the now, the focal point of all temporal existence, and their acuity in detecting the slightest fluctuations in the flow. Let us call them Julian, manifesting in that instant as a constant swirl of newborn constellations, a pattern of light and shadow vibrating with the urgency of novelty, felt the dissonance more strongly than most. The cold of the echo of oblivion burned them. The screech tore at their very temporal form. Julian separated from the collective node, projecting their fluid consciousness, their being of time, towards Etherio's confines, where the dissonance seemed to originate, where the echo of oblivion was most potent. Traveling through Etherio meant navigating its powerful and complex temporal currents. Julian moved through the nebula of memory, feeling the whispers of billions of years of history, the latent potential of countless futures. They dodged vortices of paradoxical time, swirls of twisted causality, which, magnified now by the dissonance, became deadly traps even for a being of time. As they neared the source of the cold, it intensified into a freezing pain, light dimmed as if the past itself was being drained, and the vibrant echoes of time became terrifying silences, voids where history once was. Instead of the rich and vibrant resonances of universal history, Julian found only void. Entire moments, entire eras of existence were simply gone. They had been erased, not by accidental intervention or entropic decay, but by a kind of existential deletion, an active forgetting that siphoned away the very essence of time, leaving desolate holes in cosmic memory. It was as if someone was tearing pages from a book, but the pages didn't just vanish. The history written on them ceased to have happened. Finally, Julian reached what felt like Etherio's edge, a place where the nebula of memory frayed into an unnatural blackness, a nothingness that should not exist there. They found no conscious entity manipulating time, no technological object causing the flaw. They found a breach. It was a wound in reality itself, a fissure that led not to another place or dimension, but to absence. A darkness that was not merely the lack of light or matter, but the lack of existence. And from this breach, the echo of oblivion emanated, an anti-resonance that actively dismantled time, memory, and consciousness at a fundamental level. It was the antithesis of chrononaut being. Most terrifying to Julian, the being made of history and future, was what they did not feel near the breach. There were no echoes of the past, no vibrations of the present, no potential of the future. It was absolute temporal silence. The breach was a black hole for causality, a void that erased not only events, but the very possibility of events happening. And the breach was growing, slowly, ineluctably, spreading its oblivion towards Etherio's pulsating heart, threatening to erase not only the Chrononauts and their home, but the very possibility of time throughout the cosmos. Julian, the cascade of light and stardust, the embodiment of nascent constellations, paused, a rare state for a being of flow before the abyss of absence. The resonance of their own existence, of the infinite history and latent future that comprised them, vibrated with a new and terrible understanding. The threat was not something they could observe and balance from a distance. It was something that sought to dismantle the very fabric they were made of, something that denied their very existence. The battle for time, for the very existence of history and future, had arrived at their doorstep, and the Chrononauts, beings of time, had to confront the nothingness that forgets.